We've talked a lot about what makes a black sheep a black sheep. It can be a number of things, really. We look at a series of horror movies and see what the underappreciated or even outright hated ones are to lift them up and defend them. It can also be a relatively underseen or unknown entity in the career of an actor, director, or series of films to shine a light on to get it on more people's radar. A black sheep can be seen as bad at the time of its release, or even now, and just needs someone to speak to the positives that the film offers. The Gate 2 is, well, it's all of that. It's a mostly underseen and unknown movie in a short horror series that is not really loved by people who have seen it. With the first movie in the series being a spooky kid classic, I'm here to tell you that not only is The Gate 2 worthy of the Gate moniker, it's worthy of your time and attention too.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
The first Gate came out in 1987 and gave us a few things. First, it gave us a horror movie that you show your kids to gauge whether or not they can handle horror movies. I think it's a little scarier than the Monster Squad, even if I prefer that movie due to Shane Black's magic and the collected sum of its parts. The other big thing it gave us, apart from its effects, was the first on-screen appearance of Stephen Dorff. The Gate still holds up really well, as I recently showed it to my 10-year-old, and apart from thinking that 1987 was too old of a year to watch a movie, ouch, he was invested from start to finish. He asked me, as he often does after our movie viewings, if there was a sequel. I told him yes, but it's not as good as the first one. But there I was, already setting up the expectation that a movie wasn't great even before he watched it. I was, in every sense of the word and then some, gatekeeping. The movie, as the first one was directed by Tibor Takics. It was written, just like the first one, by Michael Nankin. The budgets were similar, and they even had one of the actors return, but it just isn't quite the same. Director Tibor has a ton of experience with visual effects and had a fun little run with horror movies with The Gate in 1987, I, Madman in 89, and today's movie in 1990. He also helped create the Sabrina the Teenage Witch show and directed a few of the made-for-TV movies with the character, while also working quite a bit in TV in general. His other horror output falls in line with Sci-Fi Channel originals, and while they may not be great, they're a heck of a lot of fun. Rats, Man-Skeeto, and Ice Spiders are just but a sampling of the late-night dumb fun you can have with his works. Writer Nankin only has the first Gate in its sequel for scripts, but is actually a pretty prolific director, particularly of TV. He's done episodes of the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the Purge TV show, and Van Helsing, among many others to round out his directorial jobs. The cast is mostly unknowns, or at least not super well known, aside from Pamela Adlon as Liz. Adlon has over 200 credits and is particularly prolific in the world of voiceover, both in TV shows and even video games. Her daughter Gideon has followed in her footsteps and is becoming quite the actress in her own right in movies, TV shows, and video games as well. The cast is co-led by Louis Tripp as Terry, Simon Reynolds as Mo, and James Villamere as John. Villamere doesn't have much to his name, but did star in Italian horror disaster piece Zombie 5: The Killing Birds. Simon Reynolds has had a much larger career, including showing up in other horror, Dark Water, and P2. Finally, we have Louis Tripp, who I thought I recognized for more things, but I guess the first Gate movie was a bigger part of my childhood than I thought. Apart from appearing in these two movies and a really small short film where he brings the character back, he's really not in much. The Gate 2 opens with Terry going back to his friend's abandoned house after the family moved away and trying to trade with the evil forces again. The first movie shows he comes from a bit of a broken home, but this one things have become much worse with his alcoholic father not being able to support the two of them. His mother had died a while ago, and Terrence wants to get the life back that was taken from him and will gladly mess with the demonic forces to get that again.
But I have to go back tonight. I'm doing it for us.
He looks a lot older than the first movie, and it's a little jarring, even if the actor does a decent job here. It's not Stranger Things level noticeable in terms of looking older, but it's still there. Everything in the house that he sets up for the ritual is appropriately techie for the time, but now just looks like a bunch of NES accessories.
Rise up.
Even though his friend Glenn is gone, he's joined by a group of teens who have broken into the house to do bad teen stuff. Mo and John are your typical bully D-bags, but Liz is somewhat sweet and is very interested in the inner workings of demonology and the act itself that Terrence is trying to perform. They all pitch in things to sacrifice and are answered with demons in the forms of the little guys we saw from the first movie. Well, the first movie did a good job of showing multiple on screen. This time we only get the one. This minion, along with most of the effects, look almost as good as the first movie. Most of the $7 million budget I would reckon went to the effects here, but they overused just that one minion in particular. Even though it's shot and seemingly killed, Terrence takes it home and it becomes a genie that can grant wishes, but in the way that the monkey's paw goes about wish granting, not in the friendly genie type of way. Terrence's dad gets his job back at an airline, but his alcoholism is still there and leads to a terrible accident. The other wishes kind of turn to crap too. No, I don't mean that metaphorically either. The car that Liz asked for turns into a big pile of poop. Dear editor, please insert Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park, thank you very much.
That is one big pile of shit.
The things Terrence asked for do the same, and even the things that Mo and John get all eventually crap out, as it were. The characters of the movie actually have some charisma to them as well. Mo has medical issues that he needs to take an inhaler for, John is a jerk for most of the movie, but ultimately has a good heart, and Liz ends up liking Terrence for who he is. Terrence realizes that nothing is worth bringing in evil to the world also. While it's not as dark or as fun as the first movie, it's somehow got an R rating even though nobody actually dies, but more on that later. There are a couple of great sequences in the movie too that stand out amongst the rest. Very much a sum of its parts are better than the whole type of situation. The nightmare Terrence has before he finds out that his dad was in an accident is a lot of fun, with the dad going completely off the rails in the cockpit, and the way Terrence falls out of bed is an interesting looking shot too. Mo and John end up fighting the minion that grants wishes, and that leads them into turning into demons themselves.
Surprise!
Sort of like a zombie bite or a werewolf scratch. John's transformation is an effects showcase that is equal parts impressive and disgusting. It shows where the budget went, even if the first movie still looks a bit better overall. After John changes into a monster, the other three go after him and also try to figure out how to reverse the damage that they did. Monster John kills Mo while Liz and Terrence go back to the abandoned house to do a different kind of ritual. A very not dead Mo, or maybe it's an undead Mo in this case, turns into a demon and they take Liz to sacrifice in their world to let more of the monsters in. A hamster was sacrificed in the beginning and only brought one minion through, so it stands to reason that a person will get the job done. The demon world looks great too. The rest of the world is your typical milquetoast suburban town area, while the steps leading up to the altar with a gorgeous matte painting in the background look astonishing and make you want more of that. Terrence has to finish this, and the demons point out that, well, he's the one that started it all in the first place. They change him into a demon, but before he is completely taken over and forced to sacrifice Liz, he fights back and closes the gate. Closing the gate destroys all the demons though, including Terrence. The last scene is a fun mixture of makeup and costuming with that previously mentioned old school animated charm. It feels like old school Harryhausen, or at least stuff of that era. Liz seems to be the only one who's made it out alive, but at the funeral, Terrence busts out of his coffin, followed by Mo and John after the credits. Normally I'd say that's a cheat, but with the way the characters are, I'm not mad at it. While this movie is probably relatively unknown, hell, I'd heard of it but hadn't seen it until a few years ago and never hear it talked about, it's a black sheep to be celebrated. Not only did some of you probably grow up with it on HBO or Showtime, but it's a fun sequel that decides to try out some new things rather than just rehash the same ground from the first movie. While it doesn't quite hit the highs of the first movie, it isn't as bad as you would rightfully expect it to be, and it's a fun venture back into a universe that brings us back to being kids. It works best when you watch it right after the first movie, but either way, The Gate 2 deserves a spot on your watch list and holds its own as one of horror's black sheeps.
I'm doing it for us, for both of us.
turned into shit. I mean, real shit.
Tell me about it.
That is one big pile of shit.